I was focused on you.
Yes, remember our audience, the people.
Oh, hello, people.
Hello, people.
How are you today?
We're gonna get him straight. We're gonna get him focused.
I'm working on it. I really am. What's going on, folks? It is his, hers, and theirs.
What's up, guys?
If you guys are new here, my name is Anthony.
I'm Jamie.
Today, we are going to talk about sex.
It's the dirty word.
We're going to talk about sex, but we're going to talk about sex particularly after having children. So strap yourselves in. We're going for a ride. Let's get it.
Let's get it.
Where do we begin?
I guess at the beginning.
Before children, it's just about as much sex as you can handle, right? One of the reasons we're making this video is to really impart how important sex actually is to the health of your relationship. You know,
it seems like it's so taboo to talk about, but it really shouldn't be. It's natural. It's a part of any marriage.
Yeah. It's definitely on the list of things that can break a relationship up.
Yes.
You know, you have those major things that a relationship can go through that will either pull it together or rip it apart. And sex is definitely one of those things. If you and your partner are not on the same page sexually, and that can come in a variety of ways, sorry, please, we'll be right back.
And that was a perfect example of what we'll be getting into a little later in the video. For those of you who have been watching our channel for a while, you know that we have been together for 21 years, and we did have 3 children before we got married. They were all little babies when we got married because they were very close in age. So we had the twins, and then we had our 3rd child, Anthony, 17 months later.
It was really difficult at the beginning with the twins. I was actually not around for a lot of the beginning, and when I did come back into the picture, finding time to be intimate with twin newborns was very, very difficult.
Yeah, we made it work, and that's kind of how we've always been.
Obviously we made it work because we had another one 17 months later.
Yeah, it was hectic at first, but I would still say that we were in that stage where the feelings were still so kind of electric that we always found time. It was difficult though. We had 3 babies in diapers for quite a while.
Yeah.
But there was an easier aspect to it, I believe, honestly. As I remember back on it, it was easier in the sense that when you have little babies who are not really that self-aware yet, you can kind of sneak it in and they have no idea what's going on.
Well, what she's saying is true. They're not self-aware and they don't really have any sense of what's going on, but it's also like they have a 6th sense, because I can't even tell you how many times we put them down to bed and go to get started, and I mean as soon as things actually start to get hot, it's like they know. It's like they know what you're trying to do, and they don't want you to do it.
They don't want another baby. They're the baby. I mean, mean, it was difficult, but we still got it done, you know, eventually.
That was because of our determination.
Yeah.
You have to want to. You have to be determined to do it.
In the beginning, it wasn't hard to want to do it.
No, it wasn't.
We were younger.
The deeper into life you go, the more difficult it is to really want to do it.
Yeah, and I feel like as the children get older too and the situations become more serious and stressful, it kind of puts a stress on your sex life too. We had the 3 little ones. It was kind of difficult but doable because when they're not that self-aware and in diapers, it's kind of easy to sneak off and, you know, catch nooners or whenever.
A quickie here.
Yeah.
You know, just making sure you actually get it in.
Yes. After we got married, it did kind of change our feelings about it. At first, it was wonderful. You know, we felt a lot better about being intimate because
we were no longer living in sin.
Yes, we are Christian and we didn't feel completely right morally about having sex out of wedlock. For a little while, I'd say a year or 2, we were kind of still in that place.
Secondary honeymoon phase.
Yeah. Baby number 4 came during that kind of time period, and the other one started to get a little older, and things started to get a little more interesting and harder.
Because now they are self-aware. By the time we had Tamia, the 3 older ones were very much self-aware. They were in that stage of life where, you know, everything's a learning experience. So the questions were nonstop. The knocks at the door were nonstop. The curiosity was nonstop.
Not to mention, it was just very busy. We had 4 children in 4 years. Like literally, the twins are almost exactly 4 years older than Tamia. Their birthdays are 10 days apart. 4 years apart. So we had a lot of children in a short period of time. Alex was the one that came kind of way later.
Yeah.
He was the latest one. After we had the 4th child, I think things started to get a little more hectic in the bedroom. It started to become a little more difficult. The older children were getting older and there was a baby.
If you've watched some of our previous videos, you may have heard us mention how difficult the pregnancy with the 4th child was. You know, we were in a place during that pregnancy where intimacy was actually the last thing on our minds.
Yeah.
We didn't really like being around each other very much. And while that was alleviated once she had the baby,
we had to get our groove back.
Yeah, it took a while for us to get a groove back.
Yeah. That was kind of the case up until the 5th baby was born. We kind of stayed in the same kind of groove where it was a bit more difficult but doable.
Yeah, you know, with the children being older and Tamia being a baby, it presented both sets of difficulties simultaneously. The newborn baby requires a lot of attention. The 4 older children are constantly asking questions. And honestly, even by the time you actually manage to get all of them in bed sleep at the same time, by the time that's done, you've got little to no energy left for actually having sex.
I think that came with age too. I think, you know, we're not really taking into account the fact that we were both, he was in his very late 20s by the time we got married. He was almost 30.
I turned 30 almost exactly a month after we got married.
We were both in our 20s at first. We had a lot more energy. As time wore on, we both got into our 30s. By the 5th baby, I think I was 32 when I had him.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm pretty sure. And he was obviously
36.
Yeah. We started to get more tired. It started to get a little more difficult.
Definitely.
And we are actually starting to kind of find ways now. It's a completely different dynamic now that we're starting to have teenagers and they're all very self-aware. Even the little one is 5 now. We have constant knocks on the door, as you heard. I think the main point of us making this video is just to
let people know that it doesn't have to be the death of your sex life.
It's gonna take some hard work.
Neither marriage nor children has to be the death of your sex life. You simply have to make the choice that you won't let it die.
Especially you ladies, pay attention.
What she's about to say, like, for you guys out there, it's not like I'm the one who figured this out. What she's about to say, I did not figure this out. She figured this out for herself. But pay attention, because it's truly important and one of the biggest reasons why our sex life didn't die.
Women do not feel the same way about sex as men at all. Our bodies are not designed the same way. Sex is not the first thing on our mind a lot of the time, and that is true. And it can present some difficulty sometimes. But what I found that I discovered is just because I don't feel like it doesn't mean I can't do it. And even once we started doing it, it was enjoyable. But there are going to be times where you almost have to force yourself into that place. It is a sacrifice that we need to be willing to make for our husband. You know, just like we expect him to make certain sacrifices for us. Sex is very important to men. For women, I think they really need to understand how much of a need it is for men. And that if you fulfill that need, it can eliminate a lot of problems.
Well, not only that, I think one of the bigger things that she discovered in that part of her process was during those times where it was a situation where she really didn't necessarily feel like doing it. It's not something she was thinking about. It's not something that was on her mind. And she made the choice and the sacrifice to do it anyway. Once in the act, she did want to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, it did feel good. It did improve the quality of her day even.
Yes.
You know, it's one of those things where if you can just get the ball rolling, it's not so bad.
Yes, and once that ball is rolling, if you can kind of keep yourself in this mindset where this is something you do even when you don't want to sometimes. That does not mean that you have to say yes every single time though. I want to be clear on this. It's not that every time he wants it, he gets it. That's not what I'm saying.
Sure it is.
Anyway.
Look, can we pause this video right now?
No.
Oh. After the video?
If you're lucky. You're making me lose track of you're making me get off my train of thought. What I also found is that when we stay doing that regularly, it actually causes my body to want it more regularly as well. I think, and it's just my opinion, but I think what happens sometimes is that women get way too comfortable not doing it on, you know, for a long period of time, and they don't realize that, you know, I've even heard some of my friends say, I don't understand why I don't want it more, but if you kind of make yourself do it more, if you have the opportunity to, as in a marriage, you'll find that you do want it more. Or, you know, even when he wants it and you don't, you're way more open or reciprocating to the...
And look, while it's true that a woman's natural need and desire for sex is not the same as a man's, that doesn't mean that it's non-existent. And the fact of the matter is, when you put yourself in that place where you're saying no all the time, you may feel okay and be completely unaware of the totality of the effect that it's having on your personality and you as a person. Oftentimes, these women who are not having sex by choice, that are married and could be having sex with their husbands on a regular basis, these are the stories you hear about men saying she's just a bitch, you know. And a part of that is, while a part of it is coming from his disdain for her not having sex, it's also coming from the fact that she's not having sex. For me, when we go even 4 or 5 days without having sex, I notice the change in my demeanor, in my attitude, and my personality. I'm just a little more irritable than normal. I'm a little more likely to bite somebody's head off for seemingly no reason. The same thing happens with a woman when she's not getting that release, especially if she's even remotely used to getting that release.
I do think it takes a little longer for a woman. than it does a man. I think whereas it's 4 or 5 days for a man, it's probably closer to a week, week and a half for a woman before she really starts feeling those effects. And by that time, she might not even connect the dots. But there is one more thing we need to talk about, and that is that there are things that he does to make it easier for me to want to do those things. What we discovered is that, you know, a man has certain needs and a woman has certain needs. And one of a man's biggest needs is sex. And one of a woman's biggest needs is affection. And if both people are trying their hardest to give those things,
it creates a natural flow.
It does. It creates a synergy, if you will. And that synergy, this is why we think sex is so important, because the synergy it creates, it expands into the whole house. We find that everyone in the whole house is happier, is healthier, is more at ease, is smiling and laughing more when we are in a synergetic place with each other.
We came up with an analogy for it. It's like she has an inner tank for affection and I have an inner tank for sex.
Yes.
And if she's giving me sex and giving me sex and giving me sex and I'm not giving her any affection, when her affection tank is empty, it's inevitably going to lead to my sex tank being empty, because by not giving her the return that she needs for giving me the sex, it takes away her ability to want to give me the sex, and vice versa.
It builds up resentment.
If it reaches a place where I'm giving the affection and giving the affection and giving the affection and I'm not getting any sex at all, then my tank starts to get empty. And now she's looking for the affection and it's not there because I haven't been getting what I need to keep the tank full. So when both people are giving, it creates a synergy and nobody's tank empties out. And when nobody's tank empties out, that synergy is able to spread and affect all of the surrounding area.
It is very powerful, and I think honestly it needs to stop being such a secret or a taboo subject.
I find it crazy that we will, as a society, sex up everything. They put it everywhere. Not only don't talk about it, definitely don't talk about it in marriage.
Yes.
Like, oh my goodness, why would you even bring that up? But it's like, we're married. How is it not okay to talk about sex in the one place that it's actually okay to have sex?
I'm not gonna say it's the most important thing, but it is up there with the most important things in a marriage. It's just the truth. That is not shady. That is not shallow. That's the truth.
It's factual.
Yes.
It is factual. And
tell me about someone who's in a sexless marriage and doesn't have problems.
When you start talking about the list of things that can break a relationship apart, that's at least top 5. When you start to think about how high the divorce rate is and, you know, the general attitude that a lot of people have about sex after marriage and after children, it's kind of, to me, no wonder that the divorce rate is so high. It's like people have decided to forget how important this aspect of a relationship truly is.
Well, and think about one of the first things to go when relationships start having problems.
Well, you know, it's
sex. If you can, I'll tell you this much. We have been very distant from each other, and sex has brought us back together.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And there have been, and that's the other point we wanted to make in this video. You know, there have definitely been times in our relationship where we are unhappy enough with each other that we're not even speaking, we're not talking to each other, and we're definitely not having sex. And we finally reached a place where we started to understand that that's actually part of the nature of what sex does for your relationship. We have been in the middle of an argument, the middle of a fight, and mutually agreed that we should have sex. And it's
neither one of us felt like it.
It's not in an effort to dismiss what the fight was about. It's in an effort to bring our emotions back down to a level that will allow us to talk to each other amicably.
I don't think most people realize how powerful sex is. I mean, if you really think about sex and what it's for and all of that, it's a powerful thing. This creates people.
It's the ultimate expression of love. It's the ultimate expression of what your relationship even is. It's me literally giving part of myself to her and her literally giving part of herself to me.
When you have sex, even if you're forcing it, it forces you to connect. And you will find, if you really pay attention and you kind of have a connection to yourself and how you feel after that is going to be different than how you felt before it.
Definitely.
You're going to feel more at ease, just more centered.
And you'll find yourself with the ability to even have that uncomfortable conversation with a more level head. You're not going into it all angry, you know? Like, I can remember situations where we reached a real impasse, and it was to the point where I couldn't hear a word she was saying and she couldn't hear a word I was saying. And we mutually agreed to just have sex, just to break that tension, to re-establish the connection and bring ourselves back to a place where we can even hear each other. You know, it's that powerful.
We want to be clear here. This is not about the release. It's not that kind of tension. It's not just about, oh, we're pent up, we need to release before we can talk. It's deeper than that.
Yeah, it's about way more than just the orgasm. It's about the connection. It's the act itself with the person that creates that connection, that brings it back where it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Ever underestimate the value and importance of sex in your relationship. It is, in my opinion, a key component to a long, successful, healthy relationship. So I encourage you all who are married, as soon as you're done watching this video, go find your significant other and get after it.
And let's not be so ashamed to talk about it either. You know, this is a part of life and it's a beautiful part of it. So let's talk about it more.
Let's talk about it, people. Leave some comments down below and tell us how sex has helped or hurt your relationship. Because the truth is, if you're in an unhealthy relationship, sex can actually be a destructive force as well. So leave your comments down below. Let's get into it. If you guys like this video, and I hope you did, please hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up.
Hit that notification bell
so that you guys can get all of our future videos.
Oh, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, please. And as always,
praise Him in the morning.
Praise Him in the evening.
Read your Bible often. And life is a very precious gift from God. So get out there with the one you love and live it to the fullest. Thanks, guys.
See y'all later.
Bye now.